Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone in the audience and watching, and we'll be seeing this by web stream, to the Poulsbo City Council meeting of July 1st, 2026. Poulsbo is committed to being a welcoming, diverse, equitable community where all people can access tools and opportunities to improve their quality of life, allowing them to reach their full potential. During its meeting, the Poulsbo City Council will use this lens to inclusively view its discussions and actions. I'd like to call on Councilwoman Britt Livedall for the land acknowledgement, if you would, Britt.
Gladly, thank you. Poulsbo is located on the ancestral lands of the indigenous Suquamish people, for whom this place was known as Tuktuk Lots, or the land of the vine maples. Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hallowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished. Chief Siocht, 1854.
Thank you, Councilwoman Livedall. If you can, would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, you have before you the agenda for July 1st, 2026. It will stand as presented, and just to note, we will be going into executive session after the study workshop at the end of the regular session. I would entertain a motion to accept this agenda unless there's any questions or concerns.
Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Abstentions? And it carries. The first thing I'd like to do is exercise mayoral prerogative, because we just said the Pledge of Allegiance, something we do at all of our meetings and most public meetings now for many, many decades. We're on the verge of the 4th of July, the 250th observation of such since the reading in 1776. So I'm going to move up the proclamation, having just honored the flag, and share with you the city and the council's statement. Proclamation. Whereas on July 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was adopted, establishing the foundation of a nation dedicated to the principles of liberty, equality, self-government, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 250th anniversary of the founding of these United States of America, a historic milestone that provides an opportunity for reflection on our nation's history, achievements, challenges, and enduring democratic ideals. And whereas for 2.5 centuries, generations of Americans have worked to build and strengthen our communities, institutions, and freedoms through civic engagement, public service, innovation, and certainly sacrifice. And whereas the city of Poulsbo recognizes the importance of honoring the diverse people, cultures, and perspectives that have contributed to this nation's story, including indigenous peoples, immigrants, veterans, service members, civic leaders, and community members whose efforts have shaped our country and our community. And whereas this anniversary offers an opportunity to educate future generations about the responsibilities of citizenship, and the value of democratic participation and the importance of preserving these freedoms and opportunities secured through the efforts of those who came before us and gave their all. And whereas communities throughout the nation are joining together in commemorative activities, educational programs, volunteer service, and celebrations that inspire civic pride and encourage engagement in the future of our country, I therefore declare the America 250 commemoration year in the city of Poulsbo and encourage all residents to participate in those activities that celebrate our nation's history, honor the contributions of those who have helped shape it, and reaffirm our shared commitment to the principles of democracy, liberty, equality, and civic responsibility. This first day of July 2026, in observation of the 4th of July, 1776. Thank you, everyone. I'll now call for public comment. Those who wish to address this council, if you would just stand and rise and come to the podium. All you need to do is share your name, place of residence, and you'll be granted 3 minutes. So calling for public comment. Please come forward.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Harris, and I just came to say thank you to the council and to Mayor Ed, because back in March, I came to this same microphone and I asked if we could celebrate the 250th anniversary of our independence in the United States. And so with your guys' support, frankly, so many of the community leaders, back in, as I said, March, I came to this podium, and by April, Mayor Ed invited a bunch of community leaders to join us and talk about the planning. And in 12 very short, fast weeks, we did it. And it's for a lot of, because of the community has been involved. And so I just wanted to display, I'm sure this is probably inappropriate, but I'm going to display the shirt, the logo. And so we really hope that everybody can join us from 2 to 6:30 on Saturday. There is going to be Lions Club is doing hot dogs and hamburgers. You can bring your own picnic and drinks, and we're going to have bubbles and children's activities, and most importantly, a dunk tank. And Mayor Ed will be one of the victims. So thank you very much.
Please remain there for a moment, Cheryl. Please receive some applause.
Thank you.
Council or mayor can ask a question of any presenter and waive the 3-minute rule. We do so rarely, but this is a case in which I think it's called for. Cheryl Harris has been an outstanding chair of our ad hoc July 4th Committee Council. She's the past president of the Poulsbo Rotary Club, and when she grabs the bull by the horns, she shakes the bull, the cow, and the calves all together in one great whoopee. She presented each member of the committee at the end of our 12 meetings in 11 weeks.
In 11 weeks, right.
With a doll or a troll celebrating, and that's what's up here by my podium. And she shared just a moment ago the logo she helped, in fact, designed and develop. This logo, there we are on TV, will be wet, very wet, if you care to make a donation at about 5 o'clock on Saturday, which is my turn at the dunk tank. Cheryl was referring to the family picnic and the opening of the summer concert series. Jeff, Public Director, will be talking about that in a few minutes. That will be at Waterfront Park at the Pavilion from 2 to 6 p.m. At 2 p.m., there will be an opening of ceremonies, starting with the Suquamish tribe. It's been 7 long years since we've had a July 3rd or 4th event in this community. And due to all of us approaching it with a spirit of collaboration and cooperation and acknowledgement and openness, we are able to restore this event. Hopefully a long-lived tradition, Cheryl, starting this July 4. And I want to shout out not only Cheryl, but in terms of the groups that were at the table, Rotary as a whole, the Lions Club, the Port of Poulsbo,
Mhm.
the Poulsbo Historical Society. In and out came the Yacht Club, the senior organization downtown, the Sons of Norway, and many others. And without their cooperation and, in fact, enthusiasm, we would not be restoring our July 4th event to this community. We had talked earlier, and I'm just going to touch on it, a drone show. By next year, there'll be a fireworks ban for any personal use within the city limits of the city of Poulsbo. But there are alternatives. In that short time Cheryl described, 12 meetings in 11 weeks, the drone show came up toward the middle. It turns out you need the review and cooperation of the United States Navy. We're only a stone's throw from the third most powerful naval base in the world, that being submarine base Bangor, directly over that ridge, even though the entrance is in Silverdale. We need the cooperation of our own police department. Lieutenant Zeman is here, and that requires a great deal of coordination. Our hope would be August 11th, the last of the summer concert series from 6 to 8 p.m., that it will be followed by a drone show, fingers crossed, at approximately 9 p.m. to demonstrate moving forward the viability of a July 4th and other celebrations without the use of fireworks. And it should be great. I guess in conclusion, I just want to say, Cheryl, thank you so much. And if you would come forward, I'd like to present to you your own copy of the city's proclamation of the 4th of July. Calling for public comment. If you would please come forward, state your name and place of residence. You'll be granted at least 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Grismer, and I'm a resident of Poulsbo. I'm also a wife, a mother, an educator, a local business owner, and a proud citizen of the Poulsbo community. I grew up actually just around the corner in the early 1980s, and now more than 40 years later, I'm raising my own family in this wonderful town. I would first like to thank the mayor and the city council and the 4th of July committee for putting all the work into this upcoming weekend, for displaying the American flags this month, for hosting the reading and discussion of the Declaration of Independence, and organizing the celebration at the waterfront. I plan to be there and enjoy it all. I think this is a meaningful way to honor this historic milestone. These efforts send an important message to our community that our nation's history is worth celebrating and that Poulsbo is proud to participate in that celebration. I would also like to express my appreciation to Councilmember Michael Fitzpatrick for taking the time to respond to a recent letter that I sent to the City Council. He went above and beyond by spending 2 hours meeting with my husband and I. He genuinely sought to understand my concerns, and together we had a very thoughtful and productive conversation. Now, that experience actually reminded me of something many people are longing for today, and that is the opportunity to hear and to be heard. Growing up in Poulsbo, I remember a community filled with people from many different backgrounds and perspectives, yet people treated one another with kindness, thoughtfulness, and respect. We engaged with one another, we listened, even when we disagreed, and it was a place where people could express their opinions without fear of being shamed, slandered, or silenced. That spirit of mutual respect was one of Poulsbo's greatest strengths. As you now consider who to appoint to your vacant council seat next week, I encourage you to select someone who is committed to understanding the concerns of all members of the community and who thoughtfully considers those perspectives when making decisions. Choose someone who listens carefully, collaborates respectfully, and seeks solutions that will benefit the entire community. Most importantly, choose someone who genuinely desires to hear others, not simply to be heard themselves. Finally, many residents hope to see a broad range of viewpoints represented in our local government. So as you make this appointment, I encourage you to consider how that new council member will contribute to representing the diversity of perspectives within our community. Many residents who identify as politically conservative hope to have their views reflected in council deliberations, and they see Ryan Engdahl as someone who could provide that perspective. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you very much. And again, calling for public comment, please.
Good evening. My name is Greg Grismer. I live here in Poulsbo, and I am coming a little bit greasy because I'm multitasking at church barbecue. Just got done grilling 150 hamburgers. Thought I'd slip in for public comment, and then I'm heading back to the barbecue. I was born in Harrison Hospital. Two of my children were born in Silverdale. Two were born in Poulsbo, if you can figure that one out. I'm a local church leader, a small business owner, husband, and a father. And I'm also what would be called a Christian conservative who values traditional family values. It is a little bit unique and awkward for me to stand here in this position. But if you go outside the doors, about 40% of the people you run into are similar to me. 40% of the Poulsbo voters, 40% of the Poulsbo tax base. And often I can tell you from the boys in the back who drive around with the mud flaps, mullets, and flags that we sometimes feel a bit disenfranchised and underrepresented in city politics. The city's been delegated with the authority to appoint a new city council member from now until 2027. And you got 4 qualified candidates, and you guys have an important decision to make. I believe you guys have a rare opportunity to appoint Ryan Endell to a place where a conservative voice can be heard on the city council. This is a temporary position. He'll have to earn his place by vote in 2027. But I urge you, give diversity a chance and approve a conservative. Thank you.
Thank you very much for expressing yourself. The council appreciates those many perspectives, I assure you. Again, calling for public comment. And while you're thinking about that, I will state for the record, there'll be a second opportunity for public comment at the end of the study workshop session before the executive session. We will allow for public comment. So again, calling for public comment. And not seeing any, we will close public comment and move on to the agenda. At this point, we're on agenda item number 5, mayor's report and council comments. So I'm going to turn to my left and say good evening again, and thank you for reading the land acknowledgement, Councilwoman Livedall.
Welcome. I don't have many comments except the USA is currently playing Bosnia and Herzegovina right now in the World Cup. So I'm a little bummed that we are missing that. So I might be checking the score every now and then. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Rick Eckert.
Well, I only have 20 minutes of public comment. Just kidding, Doug. I had to cut into Doug's time. So I just want to, quick comment on 4th of July. It's always important. Obviously, this year is even more important. But I had a unique experience of being stationed in England for 3 years. And one of the best parts of that was every year we used to host a picnic for our British coworkers. And celebrating Independence Day with our British coworkers was absolutely amazing because they loved it. And I can't think of anywhere in the world where you could do that other than America and England. It was unbelievable. And they never understood how to work hot dogs. So it was always funny. They would rip the buns. It was try to shove cheese in. It was just, they didn't know how that worked. So watching the videos of them coming here for World Cup and eating our food is just really funny. But so last week was the annual conference of the Association of Washington Cities. Myself, Michael, and Ed were there. It's really good sessions, some good guest speakers, good conversations with council members, mayors, city administrators, just other folks around the state. I did forward a link to the rest of the council to the materials page. The conference has all the handouts, slides, everything from it for folks to look through. But I wanted to share, so as part of my work on the AWC Education and Training Committee, we were we're looking at the bylaws as far as how we choose where the annual conference is. And it's actually really, really strict guidelines on what cities can hold it due to capacity, but also not being too expensive, which is so Seattle's pretty much never going to be where it's held. But we tried other places. But one thing is next year it's actually going to be in Tacoma. So I want to encourage my council members, mayor, staff, even if a good showing for next year. So Tacoma, June 22nd, and then the following 2 years will be Vancouver and Wenatchee. And then the next 3 years aren't set yet. But if we can have a good showing next year, get everybody out, it's probably as close as it will ever be. So that's all I had for this night. Thank you.
Rick, allow me on behalf of the council and the public to thank you for your many years of public service in the United States Navy. He just referenced being stationed in London, and I know he had a lot of different service than that. And he currently still works for the Navy in a civilian capacity right across that ridge I spoke of earlier. Thank you, Rick. Councilman Michael Fitzpatrick, also a veteran of the United States Army, 2 tours in Iraq. Michael, how are you this evening?
I'm well, Mayor. And good evening to the community. I want to thank everyone for being here, especially those of you who gave public comment. It is something to be grateful for, what we've accomplished for July 4th, and I will be there with all of you celebrating the 250th. And also want to thank those who are taking an interest in our council appointment. It's not always the sexiest thing, but it's nice that the community is invested in who their leadership are, and I encourage that same level of commitment when the elections roll around as well. I have a couple of things I'd like to share tonight. The first is a little sobering. Like some of us up here at the dais, I had the privilege of being at Western Red Brewery yesterday for one last drink before they closed their doors for good. This was sad for me. As a new member of the council, I had the opportunity to start forming relationships with our community that I didn't have before. And one of those was getting to know Denver and Mariana for the first time over the past few months. And it's been an honor to work with such amazing and community-oriented small business leaders. It's time, I think, to acknowledge that we might not be merely in an economic slump or slow season. Most of the business owners that I've talked to around the city have noticed a sustained drop in their customer traffic over the past year. There's a lot of reasons for this: bad economic policy at the national level, legislative missteps here in Washington, rising inflation in utilities and fuel costs, the higher cost of borrowing, and of course, the staggering price of land and rent over the past few years. These are all stripping our businesses at their margins. Now, in my view, the federal and state governments have the primary responsibility to attend to these economic bellwethers and provide appropriate relief, but they have yet to do so, and I think it's time for us as a city to take up the mantle and consider whether we can provide relief to our community. So in honor of Denver and Mariana and to all that they did for this city, I'd like to ask my colleagues on council to consider raising the threshold for our business and occupation tax. Mayor, if you would consider that as a potential future workshop discussion, I'd be grateful. I was among those who thought the current threshold on the B&O tax was sufficient to ensure our smallest businesses can get to profitability, but now in this climate, I'm not so sure. The second thing I want to share is that tomorrow I will be joined by my colleague Pam Crow and several folks from our community who have signed up with our Parks and Rec Department to have a discussion together on the Declaration of Independence. In honor of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration, I wanted us as a community to not just memorialize it, but actually talk about what it means. It's at 2 p.m. in the Poulsbo Library Community Room if anyone wants to join us. We put up flags and we say the pledge as we just did, and we sing the national anthem at sporting events, but we spend far less time refreshing ourselves on the ideals of the Declaration or the Constitution, or training ourselves in civic virtue. Good citizens are not born, they are made. Responsible citizenship requires disciplining ourselves to become people who serve the common good rather than our personal ambitions. Most importantly, civic virtues require us to be one people, bound together by common beliefs and affections. Today, I look at a nation that seems more invested in division than e pluribus unum, out of many one. I see a nation that takes for granted our union of states. For me, the Declaration is a cautionary reminder that no union is inevitable. The Declaration opens with these words, quote, "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them." This is a reminder that political bonds are like all relationships. They must be nurtured. They must be revitalized. If they stagnate or become tyrannical and oppressive, our divisions can become so deep they result in a divorce. The Declaration is a lament. The authors note with sadness that their common heritage with England is being broken. If this momentous anniversary means anything, it is that we should not be so ready to stoke the fires of division and corruption and domination, for this great country that we take for granted can be lost. So what are the ideals that we should unite around in our common bonds as Americans this weekend of the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence? There are three great ideas that our founders enshrined in our Constitution that I'd like to remind us of, for these are the true fruits of the founding of our nation. The first is legislative supremacy. Article 1 of the Constitution clearly declares that the vision and laws and policies and decisions of the nation are to flow first from Congress. The executive faithfully executes the law and the judiciary applies the law. It is the people's representatives and the state's senators who reflect the will of the people and establish the supreme law of the land. The second idea is checks and balances. No part of government can spend the public's money or take action without accountability. To argue that executive action is unreviewable by the courts or unaccountable to the legislature is to reject this founding principle of our nation. The last idea I want to share is due process. In our Bill of Rights, especially in the 4th through 7th Amendments to the Constitution, our founders declared that the government cannot deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without granting that person their due rights under the law. I want to note that those amendments say person, not citizen. The incredible vision of our founders was that all people subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, not merely citizens alone, are entitled to the full rights of due process guaranteed in the Constitution. However you celebrate this weekend, I hope you will remember that what makes us Americans, what makes us a United States, is not our race or our religion. It's not the language we speak or whether we were born on American soil. It's not the strength of our military or the wealth in our coffers, and it is certainly not the Pyrrhic partisan victories of the Republicans or Democrats. What makes us Americans is a shared commitment to these constitutional ideals and others. That we are a nation governed by laws, not partisans. That we are a nation whose government is always subject to checks and balances. And that we are a nation where the due process that is afforded to all people is the bedrock of our freedom. I call on everyone here in Poulsbo, in Kitsap County, in the great state of Washington, and in these United States to rededicate ourselves this weekend to these principles and become once more a nation our founders would be proud of.
Thank you, Michael. Tremendous reading. Michael is also a college professor teaching political science and philosophy. He shared with me in his, we first got to know each other, that his tours in Iraq and what happened to some of his fellow soldiers affected him deeply, changed the course of his life, which you just heard is part of that outcome, I presume. And we are proud of you, Michael, for the American citizen and person you are. I'm going to turn to my immediate right. You heard Michael referred to Councilwoman Pam Crow in the Poulsbo Library. Pam is the manager for the Kitsap Regional Library of our local branch. Pam, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, and thank you for those who shared their comments and just the fact that we as a council should represent the fabric of the community. So I appreciate that reminder. Tethering to what the mayor shared in reference to Michael having a presentation tomorrow or a discussion at the library. It is tomorrow from 2 to 4. Please come. Admittedly, and reflecting on the First Amendment or thinking about it, sometimes we can take it for granted. So I'm looking forward to the discussion and what Michael will be sharing in reference to that. I also want to share in the world of Kitsap Regional Library that there are programs throughout the county at several locations, including Poulsbo, that you might want to lean into in reference to the celebration of America 250. I will share this again later. I want to let folks know that there is going to be also a program reflecting on the First Amendment, which will be on Saturday, September 19th from 11 to 1 at the Poulsbo location. Associated with that, I think it's great to lean into what Michael will be sharing, because this is a celebration that we want to lean into over a course of months. And at the reflection on the First Amendment, there's going to be panelists, including someone who has newly became a citizen, various voices that folks will share how they interpret the First Amendment. And there will also be some books available that will be handouts for folks to take home. So I wanted to share that, and I'll share that again over the next few weeks as a reminder of leaning into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. And then to my far right, Councilman Doug Tabor. Doug, thank you for being patient. We're anxious to hear from you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a heads up, I usually don't have as long of comments, but tonight I am. And don't worry, I'm going to forego my next two council comments to bank some time for this one. And it actually is very apropos to my colleague Michael Fitzpatrick's statement. And essentially what I'll be doing is requesting an agenda item on a workshop around affordability. And I'd like to do that later in the year, perhaps even into the, next year, so that there's time for the new council member to catch up and time to do the research on what that looks like. But for tonight, I'm going to have a presentation. In the context of the presentation is what guides my voting on council to the public, and also the workshop where the council can discuss what we can do about affordability locally, but also how we can hold our representatives accountable and take and demand that they take affordability seriously, because I don't feel that they are. So now let me hop into this speech. People, rightfully so, demand that that this council make decisions that affect their daily lives and that we steward the city they live in. Recently, the city staff did an excellent job on a 4-part series examining the housing crisis. But housing isn't the only problem. We're in a broader affordability crisis. Groceries, sorry, I'm trying to get the slides working. So this first slide is important because it shows it's the #1 concern on Americans and on their minds in terms of economics is affordability overall, then housing by a much smaller margin. Let's blame this on Microsoft. There you go. Nice. So top of mind, essentially. And then next slide. Groceries, insurance, healthcare, gas, electricity, many other crucial goods and services cost more and more every year, every month, it seems. Prices climb and wages stay flat. The city isn't immune to this either. The same inflation that's driving up your bills are driving up costs of asphalt, insurance, projects here at City Hall. If revenue doesn't keep pace, the level of service has to fall. And a service cut by any other name is still a cut. The council doesn't make decisions on these impact fees and service cuts or maintaining service lightly, nor will we ever. But before we talk about cutting services, let's be clear about where tax dollars go. Next slide. So the total taxes you pay is called the tax burden. The city of Poulsbo represents roughly 3 to 4% of the total tax burden most residents pay. More than 70% of your tax dollars go to the federal government. Yet, when budgets get tight, the first suggestion is often to cut local services. Cut parks, delay road repairs, reduce recreation programs, scale back public safety. otherwise increase local taxes. I believe that's the wrong place to focus. While we should focus on that, as Michael suggested, I think that's focusing on the leaves on the branch, and we need to also look at the roots. Who's spending our tax dollars? For 4% of what most residents pay in taxes, Poulsbo provides parks, trails, police, and we make investments in infrastructure. We build programs to help those who need it most, and we provide many services that people use every single day. We should always pursue efficiency, transparency, and accountability. And from what I've seen, the city works hard to do that. We may disagree on some issues, but I believe everyone in this city government works for the public good. For those who collect 70% of our taxes and then go over budget every year, I don't know if I could say the same. So how did we get here? The affordability crisis facing working families was not created by little league fields. It wasn't created by local libraries, community events, or even, dare I say, paid parking. It was shaped by decades of national decisions that concentrated wealth, increased housing and healthcare costs, and allowed special interests to wield enormous influence at the state and federal levels. You can see the influence in the decisions our federal reps make that puts profit over people. Decisions to recklessly drive the federal debt to the point where our interest payments alone are over $1 trillion, causing record inflation and driving up prices. Next slide. Decisions to protect bankers from risky bets, decisions to put corporate donors' needs ahead of the needs of the people. We see these types of decisions far too often. We hear promises of getting money out of politics, of draining swamps, of fixing the economy for the middle class. I've heard politicians make these promises my whole life, and yet they rarely deliver. Why is that? It's simple. They stand to profit. It's not hard to make these connections. Members of Congress are allowed to trade individual stocks on the very same industries that they're supposed to regulate. Billions of dollars in subsidies, campaign spending has skyrocketed, and many Americans are wondering whose voices are being heard. Whether you're a liberal, conservative, or somewhere in between, the vast majority of Americans agree on one thing: our government should work for the people. So when we demand a fix to the affordability crisis, let's look to where the greatest amount of money and influence exists. We must demand better from our representatives who are responsible for many of the policies that got us to here today. The affordability crisis will not be solved by trimming away parts of government that everyday people value most. It will be solved when we demand more from those who wield the greatest power, spend the most money, and collect the largest share of our taxpayer dollar. Tonight, I ask this council to do something about it, and that's the affordability workshop that I'd like to participate in, and a part of that would be drafting a letter to our representatives in DC. I have 6 example policies that I'm going to skip, but let me just end on the last one. Ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks. Something like 90 or 90% of Americans support this. It's common sense. Why don't we do it? It just makes no sense to me. Essentially asking our DC reps to the same standards that we follow in local government. If DC collects more than 70 cents of every dollar, then our DC reps should receive 70% of our scrutiny. We often lobby our state reps who heed the needs of our community and hold them accountable. So why not our federal reps? I'm not asking for anything radical. All this stuff is just common sense, stop corruption, fix the budget, anything that if we did in this city, we would be run out of office or even arrested potentially. Don't ask communities to sacrifice parks, recreation, libraries, and public safety before demanding from the level of government that recklessly spends the most, taxes the most, and has done the most to shape the crisis we're in today. That's why we should all demand cut corruption, not community. That's it. Thanks. So yeah, workshop in the future. Hopefully we can tie in that and get that on the agenda. We can discuss that later.
Very well done, Councilman Taylor. Thank you. A lot of food for thought. A lot of new subjects that the city administrator is busy copying down for future agenda work. I guess it's time for my turn, the mayor's report, and I'm going to turn to Katie. If that one photograph, I don't know if that made it to you with the Suquamish tribe, that will be put up on the screen momentarily. I'll set the stage for the photo you're about to see. The U.S. Navy is going to be investing over the course of the next 10 years about $15 billion on the Kitsap Peninsula. The majority of that's going into the Bremerton waterfront for a brand new dry dock to handle the new Gerald Ford class aircraft carriers, much larger than the Nimitz class. And that's going to require extensive dredging and rebuilding. And the same time, right across that ridge, we'll be receiving the new Columbia class nuclear submarines. Those will be coming in over the next 5 to 10 years to replace the Ohio class. Why do I mention that? The Suquamish tribe, when it settled with the federal government, when Councilwoman Livedall read the land acknowledgement tonight and referred to the Treaty of 1854, 1855, the Suquamish tribe, which enjoyed the use of the central Puget Sound, both the Seattle side, named after its chief, and housed and with the longhouse here at the Agate Passage, retained usual and accustomed harvesting and other rights along the shorelines of the Kitsap Peninsula. It is very difficult for the Navy to carry out this type of work without the cooperation of the tribe. It has reserved federal powers by a federal treaty approved by Congress. Has nothing to do with Olympia, has nothing to do with Poulsbo or Bremerton. What you see before you then is a photograph of a historic ceremony that took place Saturday that City Administrator Rob Gelder and I attended. The Bremerton mayor was there, many other elected officials, state senators, state representatives. I won't go through the list. What you see there in the photograph, the gentleman with the blue tie, is the Assistant Secretary of the United States Navy. And backing him up are 3, 4-star flag admirals from the Pentagon. Also there is Ajor Bore on your right, tribal councilwoman, Irene Carper, councilwoman, Jay Mills, councilwoman, and then seated next to the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, Chairman of the tribe, Leonard Forsman. In front of them is a paddle that was ceremoniously given to the Assistant Secretary. It incorporates traditional waterway technology that the tribe practiced for millennia, along with the U.S. Navy emblem on it and a canoe. And in return, the Navy presented a protocol flag and coins and other tokens framed. Then the document was signed where the Suquamish tribe agreed to mitigation and to receive impact to offset and support, therefore, the $15 billion dredging about to take place at Bremerton, and smooths the way and avoids litigation, arbitration, and other friction. I will hold up. I don't know if this can be captured on the. Kate Avakana is the tribal cultural director and quite the artist. She played a major role in the artwork at the Johnson Way roundabout, both with the sculpture and the artwork that's on the wall, the large circular artwork. She commissioned for this historic ceremony. This is the first time the Navy has directly signed a memorandum of agreement with any United States tribe. And City Administrator Gelder and I were presented with these tokens. They read Suquamish Indian Tribe and United States Navy, June 27, 2026. And what I did was grab extra copies for my colleagues. If you would hand that to Councilwoman Livedall, Councilman Eckert, Councilman Fitzpatrick, Councilman Tabor, Councilwoman Crow. We have one for our colleague, Councilman Doug Newell, who might be joining us in the study session. These are for you to enjoy, but understand they mark the historic occasion that took place Saturday, unheralded in the history of the United States, and a new level of cooperation between the federal government, the United States Navy, and our closest and oldest neighbors, the Suquamish tribe. I'm going to go on. Thank you. That's on behalf of the Suquamish tribe, and I will convey that. Thank you. I'll conclude by repeating the schedule for this weekend, honoring the July 4th, 250th holiday, calling out the acceptance of and drafting of the Declaration of Independence. Whereas the city this year is not sponsoring, nor will there be any public entity fireworks. I'm sure there'll be plenty of private fireworks along the shoreline and in the neighborhoods, as this is the last year that is still legal to take place. What we're doing instead is sponsoring readings, recitations, reenactments for education, for sharing, for dialogue. The readings will take place both July 3rd at 3 p.m. at the Pavilion. The Sons of the American Revolution, supported by the Daughters of the American Revolution, will be providing both music and then the reading of the Declaration and other ceremonious observations. So number one, July 3rd, 3 p.m., the Pavilion at the waterfront for the Sons and Daughters of the American Revolution. I will be there and I hope you will join me. We already heard about July 4th. I will repeat. At 2 p.m., there will be opening ceremony starting with the Suquamish tribe and moving on to a reading of the Declaration of Independence by a reenactor who is the spitting image of Benjamin Franklin and will be dressed as Benjamin Franklin. Please bring your children and family. It's interesting that a lot of credit is given to Thomas Jefferson for the Declaration of Independence. Many people signed on to it. The 13 colonial assemblies had to accept it. But the truth of the matter is, what Jefferson drafted was handed over to Dr. Benjamin Franklin on June the 21st. On June the 21st, 1776. And he struck and marked it up and otherwise altered it such that Thomas Jefferson in time was able to use his writing, his calligraphy, to then draft the final by July the 4th, 1776. What I'm saying is this reenactment of the fellow who is the Jewel Box Theater, John Ackenhausen, will be carrying this out. And it will be tremendous. So I invite you to that. And then to call out one last time, my colleague to my left, Councilman Fitzpatrick, and to my right, Councilwoman Pam Crow, tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the Poulsbo Library. This is more than a reading. This is a dialogue. This is a discussion. This is an exploratory. All of these are marks of a curious and engaged citizenship, and we appreciate that. And so those are three events, July 2nd, July 3rd, July 4th, that I invite the entire community to, if you can hear this. And I believe I will conclude on that. And again, happy 4th of July, everyone, on that note. We're going to move on to board and commission and outside agency reports. Councilwoman Livedall, nothing. Councilman Eckert, Councilman Fitzpatrick. Pam?
Actually,
Councilwoman Livedall, please.
yep, I do have something. The HTPA desperately
The
needs,
Historic
excuse me,
District.
yes, thank you. The Historic Downtown Poulsbo Association, which whose membership is comprised of business owners and their staff in the downtown area, are in need of some volunteers who might be interested in joining the board. Because of the sad closing of Western Red, the HDPA board has lost its president. Denver was our president. That's very sad for us. Yeah, we're also looking for someone for the membership position, for a secretary, and then at the end of the year, a treasurer. So that's a lot of spaces. So that's kind of, some of this has come up suddenly. So we had a little emergency meeting and I wanted to make sure I report out on that for anybody who might be interested. We would love the help.
Thank you, Britt, and thank you for being a faithful liaison for this council to our downtown. We acknowledge you work there, you participate and you help it, and we appreciate it so much. Thank you. I'll just quickly add to both Rick and Michael's remarks, the Association of Washington Cities, all of last week in Spokane. I bring it up for a last time, and I call to our city administrator Gelder to acknowledge and acclaim your Health, Housing, and Human Services Director, Kim Hendrickson, who addressed the cities on our programs, the Resource Recovery Center, the cafe, the many programs, including Behavioral Navigator, Fire Cares, the Safe Parks, the homelessness, the addiction programs and intervention programs are considered to be an example for the entire state. It was the association's decision to invite her to speak, to give her the podium, and we were very proud of her. And if you would please convey on behalf of this council our pride and appreciation in your director, Kim Hendrickson. Thank you, City Administrator. And
Hey,
on
can I
that,
just share real quick?
please do.
That went so well that the Director of Education for AWC wants Kim and then Shay, who is her counterpart in Gig Harbor, to do it again as a seminar that can be recorded and shared statewide. They don't record at the annual conference, but this way that all cities have access to it, because they got so many requests at the end of their talk for how can, do you have a checklist? Do you have a toolkit? How can we do this in our cities? So they want them to put together something so that this can be replicated statewide. I said that's how well and how desired what we're doing was statewide.
Appreciate that, Rick. It's interesting to note we're a city of about 13,000. There were cities of 25, 50, 75,000 and 100,000. How did you do this? And think about the difference in size and resources and the other assets the larger cities have. So again, kudos to Kim Hendrickson. And on that note, I'll call on department heads, beginning with to report City Administrator Rob Gelder.
Well, good evening, Council. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for the opportunity. Just as we've already alluded to in some of our public comments, we are hosting a special meeting of the City Council on Monday, beginning at 3 p.m. here in Chambers, where we will kind of lay the groundwork for the process, kind of review the questions, et cetera. And at 3:30, we will go into and begin the round of interviews with 4 applicants that applied for consideration for appointment. And then at 6:30, so those will be about 45 minutes each. And then at 6:30, council will recess into an executive session to do the deliberations of the review and evaluation of qualifications for the individuals for appointment, and then come back from that executive session at 7:30 to actually act upon an appointment with the intent that whomever is appointed would be sworn in on Wednesday, the 8th. Right before the council meeting and workshop that evening. So they could actually be seated for that workshop on the 8th. So that is unfolding. And after that, I would do a disservice to Debbie and the finance team if I did not channel Debbie Boer and her phenomenal finance department by sharing the fact that we just had our exit conference with the state auditor's office on Monday, and we received a clean financial audit. So kudos to them, to their entire team that are very nimble and do a lot of work for months at a time to be ready and responsive for records to the auditor and get that ready for us to work through that and get the best results possible.
It was a sterling, clean exit audit by the state auditor's office. Not a single finding, not a single correction. Much credit, Rob, to you and the staff, certainly Debbie and her team. I was very proud to be there, very proud to represent the city and its citizens, and to know that the stewardship over which our finances and monies are watched are bar none, parallel to no one. Thank you, Rob. And I'll call on our Planning and Economic Development Director, Heather Wright. Good evening, Heather.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members of the public. I have 3 updates for you and 2 requests tonight. So the first update is a warning for anyone listening. We have had 2 scam emails sent out this week from active land use projects where people are requesting money to be wired to the city. They're doing a really nice job in these emails of looking like it's officially coming from the city of Poulsbo, even with the subject and the signature line. and the email address. So as always, be alert and stay safe, and do not send any money over a wire transfer. If anyone receives anything like that, please contact the department directly and we will assist you. We will never ask for money over a wire transfer.
Heather, do you know off the top of your head what some of these subject lines look like that might appear in the mailbox?
Yes. So what they've been doing is looking for projects that are actively under review. We had 2 projects that went before our planning commission or were scheduled for planning commission, and they're requesting additional dollars to take their project to the next level. That would be to the hearing examiner. So they're really savvy and sophisticated. I know we've reported these over to our police department, but I just wanted to warn anyone to not respond to a wire transfer request. Thank you. The second update is an active project that's under review that's received a lot of attention on social media. You may be aware of it. It's the Pinnacle Project. It's located off of Baywatch and Crystal View neighborhoods and our Johnson Roundabout. We had the project scheduled for next Tuesday's Planning Commission, and we are postponing that until August 11th at the earliest. Stay tuned, but we do have an active project page. I'm mentioning this to the council because a lot of people have their eyes on this project, and we did notice that we were going to have the public meeting, but we are postponing it because we are asking for some revisions from the applicant. So I just wanted to let everyone be aware. And we do, again, have an active web page that people can view the project, all the details, and when the next planning commission and hearing will be held. The next is the request and update. You may have observed that in some states and cities, they're offering drone delivery. We've talked tonight about drone air light shows, but drone delivery has come to the US, and we actually have Walmart is requesting to potentially add drone delivery to their Poulsbo location. And I was just going to check in with the council to see if they would like to have a presentation from Walmart at a future council meeting, potentially in August, to learn more about this technology and see if it's right for our city.
I see expressions of interest unless I'm mistaken. I think we should proceed with that. I think the public deserves it as much as this council.
Perfect. Great.
If I could just add, just to put context around it, we're not talking about drone delivery of baskets full. It's not shopping carts full of product. There are weight limitations, usually about 5 pounds or less. So I just want to make sure that we're thinking not huge deliveries, but something more practical.
I would suggest whoever comes to give us that presentation factors in what the mayor brought up earlier of our proximity to the base, and that they have answers to how that's going to work when they come talk to us.
Absolutely. That's something that's on their radar, and they've already started that coordination process. So I'll make sure they speak to that. And then lastly, I was approached by a provider of AI plan review. So this is artificial intelligence plan review. You may have seen demos at your conferences. This is a way of the future that will provide a more streamlined and faster review potentially. And the HUD is offering grants, no match grants, that the city could potentially pursue to be a test case for not only AI plan review, but also for providing an easier experience for accessing our pre-approved ADU plans. I was approached by an organization that I met during the Detroit National American Planning Association conference in April. They're called Can I Build? And they have launched their program in LA County. And since they launched in December, they've had about 80 inquiries into pre-approved ADU plan sets. Before they launched, they only had as many as 2. So they're seeing some notable changes and increase in the usage of pre-approved plans. Because of the pre-approved plans that we have, They thought that we might be a good test case for for HUD to learn about how AI plan review and pre-approved plans can work together to help solve some of our housing challenges. So I'm seeking permission from council. I just found out about this opportunity on Friday. It does close on July 13th, and I'd like to seek permission to apply for this grant as long as I get support, of course, from Debbie, because I don't want to overburden her plate. So with that, is there any concerns from council if I move forward with this application?
I'll add a contextual remark to Heather's. We're already on the county level employing artificial intelligence. I sit on the county's 911 Central Communication Board and Agency, and non-emergency 911 calls reporting routine matters, routine questions are already intercepted by an AI agent that's very human, is able to converse with you. And if it is of an emergency nature, that call is immediately routed to a live trained professional. But there is AI already being deployed in the county on that level alone. So I just want to put into context Heather's remark about just pre-approved permitting review, let alone live interactions that are taking place. So with that, I'll turn it to council. Heather's asking for feedback if there is any. Rick.
Yeah, my only concern would be kind of what you already mentioned is staff time. But I mean, I'd leave that up to the two of you and Deb to know what your capacities are. I think if it makes sense within the scope of your bandwidth, yeah, let's grab what we can, because I assume that down the road it would make it easier on your staff. So, but yeah, that's the concern. You're already all working. Any comment? All, to full capacity. So we don't want to add something that makes it worse.
A general nod or thumbs up then? There you go, Heather.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And
that's
we'll have
all I
that on the record for you. So go forth and be fruitful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Does that complete your report, Heather?
It does, Mayor. Thank
So I'm going
you.
to call on our Parks Director, Jeff Osmick. He is the unsung hero of the July 4th Ad Hoc Committee we spoke of at the top of the meeting. I'm not saying I can't enlarge enough on his role in picking up what he was receiving both from his mayor and these outside community organizations and individuals, stitching them together, taking city programs, threading them to that in order to fulfill in very short order what's a full program now for our community. In fact, what's up on the screen. And so, Jeff, I want to thank you on behalf of the committee. I would like to commend you to City Administrator Gelder, your can-do attitude and ability to deliver, your hard work, your enthusiasm. Very much appreciated, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to Mayor, Council, and our community members. It is not me. It is we are surrounded by incredible people who care, who are passionate, who are pulling, making all this happen. And I have some great news, and you're going to hear about it. But I want to show our community, and just a reminder: this is in 2 days. We pulled this off in, as you heard, in 11 weeks. So thanks, Heather, for running the numbers with Cheryl. So 2 p.m., great opening ceremony. There's a lot of happening in that. I highly recommend attending the short opening ceremony. 2:30, our first country bluegrass band. Then we have line dancing, which is instructional. Pretty sure that I remember which council members made eye contact with me, Michael, to do some line dancing. And then we have a rock and roll band to wrap it out. Big shout out to these are our generous sponsors. They're our Star Spangled sponsors, Walmart, Poulsbo Historical Society, Rotary Club, Viking Fest, and Navy Federal Credit Union. Now, I'll keep moving because I have a few more updates going through this. That is the opening of our beloved 50 years going, our summer concert series. It's a free summer concert series. Bring a picnic blanket, a chair, come down with your family and your neighbors. That's what makes Poulsbo so special. And enjoy some incredibly good music. And we have wide community support here. And you'll see we're thankful for Edward Jones for presenting this and all our partners that you'll see at the bottom for continuing to support this. This is a program that takes a lot of community support to bring top tier bands in. And we're thrilled to have the Navy band back because there was worries that they went away. Moving on, and I have lots of updates. So this is today. This is the newly renovated kitchen that we did a ribbon cutting, and every single time. This is Kitsap Tech Services offering free senior classes on cell phones and computers. It is packed with people. It is incredible going in, and is one of the most in-demand things from our surveys. Over 56% of seniors want to see more technology. Over 74% of seniors want to see more fitness classes. This is hot off the press from 4 hours ago with these surveys, by the way. And then moving on to, this is different. We are popular because we're Poulsbo and we have a beautiful waterfront, and we have events all the time. But those events take a toll. And you're going to see here, this is from earlier today. When we have events that are down on Poulsbo at the Waterfront Park for multiple days, you can see, well, let me go back one. You can see when people set up canopies and booths, and it kills the grass over multiple days. So council's aware of this, staff are aware of this. We're going to come up with some suggestions and seek council guidance in the future, because if this is fine, that's okay. We can do that, but the park will not recover probably until the fall with the amount of usage. 3 days, which we remember is a new recovery, and paid parking will probably help. But when an event comes and they set up that booth and it acts as a solar oven and kills the grass, it's not going to recover, including our new area on the South Pavilion, right? Yeah, I can see faces. It's a shame. And this is before the heat waves are going to hit us this summer. It's going to get worse. So we will be coming to council and seeking a little guidance on, with a couple suggestions for how many events you want to see down at Waterfront Park. You can see the grass is greener here because there was less booths set up. And how you would like to see that park managed. Right now, it's wildly popular. But on that note, if you continue on, there are 2 hidden gems here. This is our boardwalk, which we're going out for a grant in 2 weeks for $500,000 to help renovate that grant. But this is neat. So if you could see it, that is our bald eagle that's down there. Like, this is what you see in our town when you walk around. This is why the boardwalk is important. This is what we need to show the state so we can show funding. And in the earlier photo, that's community members. They're just at a distance having a magical moment. Our magical moment was watching all this happen. And then the second magical moment is when, if you recall, the Poulsbo pollinator program. This is American Legion. This is the second bloom now. The first one was filled with yellow. This is a partnership with Pearson Elementary students, as well as Rotary and environmental coalitions all around our community. Things are blooming, native species. There are good things happening in our community. So go for a hike, enjoy the weather. Couple other updates. We are seeing an increase in people speeding through the lower rec center parking lot. We had a near miss. We've documented it. We've reported it to the police. Thank you, police. But what this comes out to be is we have kids, we have seniors. It's a parking lot. You can't speed through it. So we will be acting on this. We are acting on it. But if you know anybody and you come to the parking lot, please drive like it's a parking lot. Just don't speed through because of the kids. Last couple updates. It's summer camp season. We've had hundreds of campers every week. And if you go up to Robb Park, there's a learning garden up there with Western Washington University. The Master Gardeners offer a free learning garden session for kids for 8 weeks. First week, we had 59 kids. Last week, we had 88. So many that it took up all the parking spots up there. And we had some dog folks who were unhappy they didn't have parking. So we're working that out. Just so you know, your parks are being loved and activated. And we're trying to make sure everybody can find space to go and visit our parks. Last thing. The most important one outside of Councilmember Fitzpatrick's Declaration of Independence from 2 to 4 p.m. at the library tomorrow. So that's free and hot off the press. We have over 25 people enrolled and we've opened it up to 40. So Councilmember Crow up to 40. Chris just told me. So it's growing. And this is the one that the community should take note of. I'm not publishing it online, but I'm going to say verbally. This is the dunk tank schedule. So at 2:30 to 2:25, Officer Timms, who's our high school resource officer, will be in there, followed by Principal Dr. Sellers from North Kitsap High School, followed by Jeff, that's me, followed by Bettina Sheen at 3:45, followed by at 4:10, Fire Chief Jim Gillard, followed by Port Commissioner Jay Lawrence at 4:35, and that's going to get fun. And at 5 o'clock, our very own County Commissioner, Christine Rolfus, is going into the dunk tank at 5 o'clock. She is representing, she is in, there needs to be more female representation, and she was there. She's all about it. So big, major shout out to Commissioner Rolfus. Our mayor is going to follow, so I'm very excited to see the dynamics between Commissioner Rolfus and our mayor. And we have a maybe. It was going to be the Viking King, Josh Washburn, to come out so we can empty out the Sons of Norway and have everybody dunk him. He might have a conflict with some family things. So on deck, and in this audience is our very own Parks and Rec Commissioner, Leighton Thomas, who is our backup right now to close it out. And with that said, there will be some signs. So come on down to our nation's 250th, our 4th of July celebration. Bring a blanket, bring a picnic. There's face painting, there's kids activities. It's a time for neighbors to get together, everybody. We hope to see you there.
I was approached today by Lieutenant Zeman, and he asked and he pleaded with me, is there no way you can't include him in the dunk tank? Am I right, Lieutenant? Oh, wow. Okay. And on a happier note, I'd like to call out to the clerk. We were joined by our colleague on City Council, Doug Newell, at 6:05. Doug, I don't know how you came in from SeaTac after an incredibly long flight, but thank you for being here, sir. Anything you'd want to share with us this evening?
I don't know why I was surprised that we're still in city administrator and department head comments. But I'll have to
We
say
can cut off his mic on that note.
I'm glad to be back.
I think I want to thank you for that, Doug, but can I get back to you? Okay. Let us proceed now. Lieutenant Zeman, on behalf of the Poulsbo Police Department.
Good evening. I'm filling in for the chief, who's busy leading our department or all hands meeting. So, unfortunately, I have some terrible news regarding one of our derelict boats that we just found out a few weeks ago sunk out just south of Liberty Bay Marina, and it's a rather large power boat, and it is in about 35 feet of water, and it's going to cost us about at least $30,000 to salvage, if not as much as possibly $50,000 to salvage. So we will be able to get reimbursed from Department of Natural Resources, but that will take time. So we will be seeking a budget amendment in the near future to cover that cost, knowing that we're going to get reimbursed down the line. So we aren't seeing any environmental hazards right now. So it seems that either it didn't have a lot of fuel in it or waste, or that the tanks are just holding out for now. But we'll be getting some bids here in the very near future to take care of that.
Lieutenant, is time very much of the essence then in regards to environmental protection and the rest?
Not that we can see right now. It's been tagged. If you go out there, there's an orange buoy that's locating the spot. We had Kitsap County Sheriff's Office, who has side scan sonar, do a reading on it, and it seems to be completely intact right now. But time will tell. We won't know anything until we get the bids and we have divers out actually go down and see what situation we're in.
And I ask this haltingly, but is there any recourse with a quote owner?
This is a boat that we knew was derelict earlier on, and the owners are very, very hard to find. They usually they're sold, and people don't re-register those things a lot of times.
Budget amendment.
Mr. Eckert.
Yeah, you mentioned going out for bid, and I'm wondering, and this might be more of a Rob or Debbie question, but is that the kind of thing that we could do almost like our small works roster, where we can get that contractor approved in advance so that they can, we can respond quicker to when these kind of things happen, that we don't have to wait, then go out, find it, all that we can already have somebody queued up?
I don't have the specifics on this, but I would imagine that there is either through the state contract, we would be able to identify resources to be able to come out and take care of it fairly quickly. And as a note, we will be bringing the budget amendment before council on the 15th.
The Department of Natural Resources, they have a vendor list for that, and these are already vetted companies. So it should be, once we get the actual approval to remove the boat, it should happen fairly quickly.
Any other question for Lieutenant Seaman? Please bring that forward. Liberty Bay is our precious crown jewel, not only for us, but for the Squamish tribe, all our residents. Let's get that taken care of.
And we will be presenting also on the 15th an update on where we're at with the bay and removal of the boats and everything.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And again, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
Mayor, or
Yes,
is there a reason we couldn't add that to the agenda tonight so that rather than waiting to the 15th?
We don't have it prepared for this evening.
Okay, I'm just.
We don't have a formal action for the council to take.
Okay. I'm just thinking, I mean, they said they're already pre-approved. I just hate to wait if we have vendors we know we're going to have to do it. We know we're going to get reimbursed. This seems like one of those things where if we can do it quicker, it would be better.
Yeah, I can, excuse me, I can appreciate that, but at the same time, we do have a process and paperwork. We still need to have the action be supported and auditable. So we want to make sure that we can pull those two together.
Yeah, it's no small amount of money. We may be reimbursed. It's probably going to take a great deal of time for that. But let's stay on course as long as there's no apparent environmental damage, and the lieutenant has assured us. If that changes, you'll alert us through the city administrator then.
Yes, and we do have an officer out there that's his main devotion right now, our school resource officer. Now it's summertime, so he is our full-time boating officer, so he'll be keeping an eye on that.
Great. Thank you. Any other question then for the lieutenant? Not seeing any. Information Technology Director Brooks Rendell.
Hey, just a quick follow-up on the scam emails hitting the planning department. The city of Poulsbo.com went away earlier this year, meaning we still have it, but if you're getting an email from the city, it's 9 times out of 10 coming at poulsbo.gov. We simplified down to poulsbo.gov. Most of us are using that as our primary email address. That being said, we can still receive email to cityofpoulsbo.com, but these suspect emails that the planning department that quote unquote came from the planning department but didn't, had different email addresses. So we can, our planning department, et cetera, we can all help to make sure that it's we can always respond that it's coming from us or not. So just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, Brooks. Anything else? So, Assistant City Clerk Katie Deal, anything to report? And Maurice is comfortably, and we're going to bring up Diane Linnaeus, Public Works Director. Well, blame Rob Gelder. He seems to be motioning your way. He's just waving at you, Diane. That's very kind of you, Rob. We're going to move on with our agenda. We're now on agenda item 8, consent agenda. All matters listed when the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the City Council for reading and study are considered to be routine, will be enacted by one motion of the council, no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by council member or citizen request. And we have only one item, Healthcare Authority Contract Amendment for 2026 through 2027, Cafe and Center Services. And that is Kim Hendrickson. Rob, who is here to speak to that tonight?
It's a consent, so we don't have anyone here this evening.
Is there any question on that?
Move to approve the consent agenda item 8A.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We have a motion on the table. No more question. I'll start to my far left, Councilwoman Livedall.
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Crow, aye.
Tabor, aye.
Newell, aye.
And that passes unanimously. Thank you, council. We're now on to the regular business agenda. The first item are the tree board appointments. Katie, would you lead us through those?
So we are here tonight to seek the council concurrence of the mayor's 2 new appointments to the tree board. We have Scott Heyman, who's appointed to a vacated position with a term expiring in 12/31/2027, and he resides inside the city limits. And Tommy Van Cleve, who is appointed to a vacated position with a term expiring in 12/31/2027, and he also resides in the city limits. The city is still seeking 2 additional vacated positions on the tree board, and Mr. Heyman is here tonight.
Thank you, Katie. We have 2 excellent individuals. Jeff, do you wish to speak to them?
No, I'm good. They are fantastic. I know one's here. I'll defer right back to you, Mayor.
I would invite Scott Heyman up here, but first let's get this approved. I would entertain a motion and a second for the mayor's recommendations for the 2 seats on the tree board.
Move to confirm the mayor's appointments to the tree board as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And not seeing any. Again, I'll start to my left. Councilwoman Livedall.
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Crow, aye.
Tabor, aye.
Newell, aye.
Thank you, Council. I'd in this moment like to invite Scott Heyman up to the podium. I see you're accompanied by your wife tonight. You may do her proud, sir. Thank you.
I'm honored by the appointment and I'm looking forward to serving the residents of Poulsbo. So thank you for this audience.
You have quite an extensive experience both in public service, law enforcement, fundraising. Why don't you share for just a moment, Scott?
I think one of the chief reasons I might be on this board is because I was part of Tree People in Los Angeles. There's a vaunted organization in Los Angeles planting trees and advocating for trees. And also I've spent 25 plus years in fundraising and various organizations, national and international, and also spent time I'm also a financial services professional and have been in that line of work for many years as well. So I'm hopeful that whatever experience and expertise I might bring to the board, I'm looking forward to doing that.
Scott, we are gratified by your commitment to public service. Please thank your wife for allowing you to spare more time away from her. We appreciate him very much and look forward to your service on Tree Board, as we do, Tommy. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the next agenda item, Puget Sound Energy night work requests. Mr. Ledden, I think you're going to walk us through this.
Yes, sir. Evening, Council. Evening, Mayor Stern. Just going to give you a quick presentation on a quick request here. There we go. So PSC is requesting night work on Hostmark. PSC is to extend existing underground service line to a new transformer to the corner of Front Street and Hostmark Street. Night work for service line install is anticipated to last for 1 night. Anticipated power outage is for up to 8 hours, but they're hoping to be done faster than that. This will only affect an outage at the new Eliason building and nobody else, so just the businesses and residents there. It's recommended the night work be done, 1, to minimize traffic impacts and the power outage to the residents and the businesses during the daytime, and definitely for the safeties of the worker. And since Poulsbo is so busy in the summer for the traveling public and citizens. As you can see, the impacted site here will be the Eliason building, and it's being connected to the transformer over at the new construction site across the street, where my mouse is right here. They'll be basically going right across the street. The conduit's already there. They're just simply making the connection. So again, 1 night of work for the transformer connection. Their working hours will be 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. And affected PSC customers will be notified at least 2 weeks in advance by PSC themselves. And we have also already notified the building owner, Kelly Clark, to inform his management staff as well. Any questions?
So that effectively protects Fjord Steakhouse during its regular hours of operation.
Correct.
Perfect. Any questions for Mr. Ledden? Rick?
Well, I was going to ask, yeah, so the impacted area you have highlighted just shows the residential part. It looks like it doesn't show the business. So is it actually is it the entire complex?
Yeah, it's the entire complex. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so I think 9. I'm not sure about the new pub, but yeah, the restaurant is still open at 9. Yeah, so just
The question being, is this fully coordinated with the affected parties?
Yes, it will be.
yeah. So I don't know about the time. Just because it is one of the it is one of the locations on downtown that is actually open that late at night. So if it as much coordination as possible, I'm sure the business owners would appreciate it. The residents, I mean, there's no good day or time for them, but yeah, as little impact as we can make, it has
Thank
to
you,
be
Rick. I
done. But
appreciate that.
yeah,
If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion and a second.
I'm happy to make a motion, though I want to ask, the motion on the slide is different than the one on the memo. Which one do you want read?
The motion that approves it?
The difference being what, Michael?
Different location.
Yeah.
It says Finn Hill and Viking Avenue is what's in the memo.
Hostmark.
Oh, so this will be for a Hostmark.
Yeah. Understand. So
I move to approve the night work request for the extension of existing service line and connection to transformer by Puget Sound Energy.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? And not seeing any, I'll call on Councilwoman Britt Livedall.
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Patrick, aye.
Pearl, I.
Tabor, aye. No, aye.
Thank you, council, and that is approved. Thank you, Mr. Ledden.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to item 9C, consideration of one-time seed funding for a community drone show, and I'll allow city administrator to tee it up and then I'll follow through.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the mayor alluded to earlier in his comments, due to some logistical factors in organizing a potential drone show for the evening of July 4th, council is being asked to consider shifting their support that was previously given to underwrite the event that could coincide with the final summer concert series on August 11th. So we're basically just shifting your authorization to a different day within the same parameters.
So we're not asking for any additional consideration, just a continuation of the consideration. There's still the opportunity for a private sponsor to participate or pick up this cost. That was understood by council when it was applied to the July 4th event, and that's the hope for the August 11th. At this point, it just allows the planning for the drone show to continue with certainty. Any question or discussion? And the action that's required is a consensus.
There's a motion as part of the cover sheet that
I will get to it.
moving to direct staff to prepare a budget amendment. It's supported by general fund reserves to underwrite up to 21,000 for the one-time non-precedent setting support of a community drone show.
Thank you for reading that. Do I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion. Move to direct staff to prepare a budget amendment supported by general fund reserves to underwrite up to 21,000 for the one-time non-precedent setting support of a community drone show.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, council? Not seeing any. Britt?
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Pro, I.
Tabor, aye. No, aye.
Thank you very much, council. I appreciate your patience and understanding. We are on to item 9D, Deputy Mayor Selection. As we all know, Councilman Gary McVeigh, Council Position 7, retired from his seat effective yesterday. That created the vacancy that created the special city council meeting for this coming Monday. We have 4 applicants for that position, and we will be sorting through that with the hope that at the subsequent council meeting seating. In the meantime, though, we have a vacancy for deputy mayor. And in order to protect the city against any eventuality, we did not wish to wait. So we have both deputy mayor and alternate, if the council so wishes to act on both or not, as you see fit. Rick.
At this time, I'd like to move to appoint council member Livedall as deputy mayor.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Does the nominee wish to speak to the motion?
It's just an honor that my colleagues trust me. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And yes, I'd be honored to accept the nomination.
And we'd be honored and appreciative of your acceptance of that role. You've earned it. You've been on the council. You're a stalwart. You do your homework, and it's something the city can rely on in the absence of the mayor. So it's much appreciated, Britt. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote, and we'll start with the presumed deputy mayor herself, Britt Livedall.
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Crow, aye.
Tabor, aye.
No, aye.
Congratulations, Britt. Does the council wish to entertain any discussion or action on the question of the deputy alternate mayors?
So
She's moving up in the world. She was deputy alternate mayor. She's moved into the deputy slot, thereby creating a vacancy.
I do have a suggestion for a nominee. I would like to make a nomination. Is that okay? Okay. I would like to nominate Rick Eckert for alternate deputy mayor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to nominate Rick Eckert. Are there any other nominations? We will have to act on the first motion in any event. Firstly, I think, are you going to give us Richard Tecumseh Sherman's speech that if nominated? No, you're not going to go there, right? Rick, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I appreciate that, Britt. You guys know my schedule's a little tighter than the rest of us, but I'm assured that there'll be no conflicts with anything else worldly going on. And I will do my due diligence to keep you and Michael apart from each other and to assure that Britt doesn't have to step up should this occur.
And that is a heck of a acceptance speech, Rick. I appreciate that. Is there any other discussion, or I'll call for the vote?
I'd just like to clarify for the public that these do not include pay increases.
Nor an automatic assumption of anything should anybody be absent. It's just running meetings.
So we have a motion and a second to nominate Councilman Rick Eckert as alternate deputy mayor to deputy mayor Britt Livedall. If there's no further discussion, I'll start again with you, Britt, on a roll call vote by name.
Livedall, aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Crow, aye.
Tabor, aye.
No, aye.
Congratulations, Rick. We're going to move on to item 9E, Public Facility District Appointment. That is a continuation. I have been in communication, as has Rob, with the Public Facility District, and we have a long time serving member, well-versed, served the community well. Darren, you have his information in your packet, and both Rob and I and the Public Facility District are in concurrence recommending a new term of office representing Poulsbo in the North End on the Public Facility District. So I will turn it over to council for any discussion or question. Not seeing any, I would entertain a motion and second to that effect.
Move to confirm the mayor's recommendation for reappointment to the Public Facilities District as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion desired? Not seeing any. Britt?
Aye.
Eckert, aye.
Fitzpatrick, aye.
Crow, aye.
Tabor, aye.
No, aye.
Thank you, council. And that completes our actual business agenda here at 6:30. We're going to take a short break and the council will reconvene at the table below the dais for its workshop agenda, 2 items. We will then have continued public comment, as I noted at the top of the meeting, any last mayor and council comments, and then we will exit into executive session. A motion will be made. It'll be indicated that we would be adjourning from executive session. With that, we will take a 10-minute break and convene shortly after 20 to 7. Thank you. And we're going to reconvene the Poulsbo City Council, July 1st, 2026 meeting. We're now in workshop agenda. We have two items on the workshop agenda proper, the Blue Ribbon Commission update, Heather Wright, our planning director, and then questions and concerns of the council. Heather, if you'd lead us through, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Council and members of the public. Tonight, I'm going to discuss with you our Blue Ribbon Commission. This commission was formed by our mayor. He actually ran on the platform of wanting to address an area of housing that our council is looking at, but it hasn't actually focused in the same way that we have for let's say, affordable housing or step housing, which is an area of focus of Kim's work, Housing, Health, and Human Services. Our mayor saw a gap in workforce home ownership opportunity. And as you all know, we have a housing target of about 250 homes that we are to provide in the next 20 years for workforce housing. And I just did a quick search before this presentation just to see what was available on Redfin and our workforce housing range, which I'll give you those numbers in a minute. And the lion's share of what you can find right now that is in that range, which is between a 340,000 and 520,000 home. This is the target we're going after with workforce home ownership. 80% of the homes that are on Redfin right now are out of reach for people in that income range. And what you will find is no detached single family homes, but more so manufactured, older condos, and those that need significant work. So no surprise to this council, you all are very in tune with the needs of our community and what housing is or is not available. So to address this, our council has formed this commission, and I'm going to give you an overview for those that haven't been as involved as others, because I know that some that are on our council have either sat in or are a member of this commission. So let me share full screen. There we go. So the mission of this commission is to advance innovative public-private partnerships to expand attainable home ownership. Ownership is a key word. Opportunities for workforce housing. Workforce housing, again, is those that are earning between 80 and 120% of our area median income. And that is between 83,000 to 124,000 per year for a two-member household, if you wanted those up-to-date 2026 numbers. And to develop an implementation-ready public-private partnership model for consideration by the mayor that will be transmitted and shared to our city council. The mayor's vision is to develop 12 detached units in a courtyard using pre-approved ADU plan sets. And again, workforce is 80 to 120. Mayor, did you want to share? I know you've done a really nice job of articulating this vision and why you think 12 is an important number in this courtyard design. Is there anything you wanted to add to your vision?
I'm just going to be very brief because Heather is extremely competent, and between Rob and her have been guiding lights in this. 12 came from the idea that the legislature in 2025 reduced finally for the first time in recent history the condominium liability law, which had stifled condominium development in the state. 12 or less units would have the liability waiver, where the owner or the developer would not be able to be sued indefinitely into the future for deficiencies. And that had stymied condominium. And effectively, these mimic condominium in a small townhouse ADU configuration. And the other thing that attracted me to the number 12, besides that being the lead item, was we're not only trying to seed home affordable workforce housing, but ownership. Make families and individuals invested community members, give them longevity in the community, and give the employer a sense of longevity with their employees. Rent doesn't do that. Rent goes up, people leave. And then the other thought was in a common courtyard, because we want minimum land footage to hold costs down, but a common courtyard invites strength of community, a community of 12 home ownership units. And for example, somebody has a problem with childcare that day. a neighbor can help out. We all grew up with the old axiom of go to your neighbor to borrow a cup of sugar. We want to strengthen that. And my hope in all of this is to come up with a replicable model that the private sector can see enough profit margin or fee-based return on that it can be replicated. No more one-off models. So I'm trying to reduce, if not do away with, government subsidy that makes these utterly dependent on those programs, which are utterly undependable and aren't replicable. They're all one-off. So those are the remarks I'd add, Heather.
Thank you, Mayor. And the focus is unique. And again, that this is not something that the state is highly focused on. They've been focused on primarily affordable. So has the incentives and that exist currently by the legislature. And this is really a learning exercise for us to try to how do we make this happen? And so the mayor, alongside with City Administrator Gelder, worked really hard to come up with the perfect group of people to figure this out, try to figure out just what we need to make this type of housing available. And we look specifically for architects, residential builders and developers, those that might represent our legislator, banking and finance, and as the mayor mentioned, also employer representatives, so they can maybe have some buy-in and maybe look to provide this as an opportunity for some of their employees. So with that, I'm going to share with you the membership list. There are 14 probably very familiar names in front of you here. I'm not going to read them all out loud, but they all bring a wealth of knowledge, information, and interest and desire to making this happen. So we are really fortunate to have so many capable and enthusiastic people in this committee.
Can I just say real quick that as the auditor of the group, I have really appreciated my colleague Doug Newell's comments. He's brought some of the best contributions to the discussions.
Excellent.
Heather, just in honor of their commitment in public service, they're doing this gratis in order to improve the community. I'll read the names out. I think they're deserving. Irene Carper, who is a tribal councilwoman secretary for the Suquamish tribe, also chief operating officer for Port Madison Enterprises, which employs over 800 people currently, and they have tasked her with housing solutions. So this was a great fit for the tribe. Jay Carter, who we've had here many times with Habitat for Humanity, who's helping us up at Robb Park with the construction of the caretaker unit. Kelly Clark, we just had the Eliason building on the Puget Sound Energy night work. He developed that and many other projects, Chinook contractors. Peter Crabtree, Chocmo, Crabtree Restaurant. He grew up in this area. He knows all the mid-sized other employers as friends and colleagues, and the employers need to be represented and participating. Rick Darrow is president of Liberty Bank. Phaedra Elliott is off Bainbridge Island with Housing Resources. The idea that it could take land trust to make this work, we're not sure at this moment what land base we're looking at. We need to leave all options open. Ian Laughlin is the president of the Kitsap Building Association. We know his father from attending many meetings in the past. They have interests up at College Marketplace. Aaron Murphy, ADM Architecture, the incoming president of the Rotary Club. Greg Nance is our state representative. Doug Newell is our esteemed colleague who shows up late and then says, I can't believe you're still meeting and taking this long. Then we have Joanne Schlachter, a community member at large with a long history in the corporate world. Jim Schlachter, her husband, on the Planning Commission, and representing also a senior perspective, because all perspectives should be involved in this question. It's a question of the community. David Smith, Central Highland Builders. Jim Sewells was a pioneer in King County in the 1990s in cottage housing. Ray Stevens just retired as planning commissioner of the chair. He's still on the planning commission. Thank you, Heather.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mayor. And I'm just going to give you a brief outline of when we started meeting and what we've done since we started. Our first meeting was on May 19th. This was soon after the conclusion of our housing affordability workshop series. Each member received a copy of our draft charter in the mail, as well as a welcome and introduction letter from our mayor. And we all commenced and introduced ourselves and went over our charter. We took in some feedback, and that it was included for you all in our packet if you're interested, and anyone in the audience that wants to dive in more deeply into the mission and what this group is going to accomplish. At our first meeting, we took a look at our land use inventory. Not only did we look at the city-owned land, but we also looked at lands that are available, that are buildable, that we do as part of our land capacity analysis for our comprehensive plan update. So we looked to see just how much land we have available, both within our city limits and our urban growth area. And then at our last meeting on June 16th, we had a member of our group that is proposing workforce housing within our community. Actually, there's two projects that are at the pre-application phase, and they gave us some insight into the incentives they're needing to make that project pencil, as well as the affordability target that they are going after, which aligns somewhat well with what we're seeking, and the size of the units that they're proposing. So it just gave us a good sense of, can it be done in our community? We don't know if it's replicatable or not, and we don't know if it has to include these incentives or not. And then we formed work groups. There's 4 work groups that have been identified, and we divided up the portions of the team into these work groups. And that is our land and site opportunity, construction costs and barrier group. We also have a financing, affordability, market demand, employer assisted housing group. Those 2 groups will be meeting on July the 7th, and then their information will feed into looking at our development incentive and regulations, as well as developing those pilot project concepts. So this can be replicated potentially within the community or not. The mayor said he's open to failure. Failure is an option. So we hope to find out if this vision of the mayor's can be replicated, and just what will that take. Did you want to add anything since you were at any of the first few meetings? Okay. All right. Well, and we meet twice a month. It is the first and third Tuesday from 3 to 5. Yes, is when we meet. So I'm going to share with you quickly what we found in our land analysis in terms of city-owned property. And the reason I'm sharing this with you, because not only was this identified in the group, but if you'll recall, when we were looking at the Housing Affordability Workshop Series, and we were discussing the various properties that council asked us to return with analysis of our existing properties. And there were 14 properties in total that the city owns that aren't already allocated for park use. So those were excluded from the conversation, or for example, if they were, some of these are stormwater pond parks. I don't expect you to identify all of these from these amazing images, but I'm going to try to orient you. After the end of our presentation, what the group narrowed down is there's 3 potentially developable properties that are under city's ownership. And the model here isn't that it will necessarily include city-owned property, but it could include city-owned property. And that'll come out of the recommendation from the group at the commencement of their meeting. So the first property that we saw that could have some development potential for housing, considering the public works expansion that's already planned for that. And this is our Viking Avenue property, or it's called Viking Way on this map, but I believe it's Viking Avenue property, where our public works yard is currently located and proposed for expansion. There is some possibility to add some housing there. We haven't done the analysis to see if this concept of the mayor's vision can fit on this site, but that will be something we could be exploring. The other property is, the middle one is the city parks and recreation lot. Interestingly, we did have a member from the community approach us a few years ago that worked for Habitat for Humanity, not for the county's Habitat, but another county's Habitat for Humanity. And they were specifically looking at the lower lot on Front Street and potentially adding housing there, much denser development. But this project has been identified as a potential site for exploration. And then lastly, the property that you all are all familiar with to the right, which is the Klingel property, which has some connection off of Torval Canyon and to the city's parks properties with trails that can lead up to Viking condos. So this property was also identified. These gray structures reflect the farmhouse that was demolished. We did use affordable housing funds to demolish those structures. And as we discussed earlier, as a council in, I believe, April, there was a question to the council if they wanted to kind of offer this property up for exploration for workforce housing. And the agreement to the council was, let's see what comes out of this group. So I just wanted you to know that this group will be looking at these properties at our next meeting in terms of just what are the costs to get improvements in terms of sewer and water and what would connections potentially be. We'll be joined by our engineering team to help us fill in some gaps. But what came out of this, what you're not seeing on this slide, which is important to note, is we don't have a lot of properties within our city limits. And what naturally came out of these discussions is a look at our urban growth area. And just as this group identified in the Housing Affordability Workshop series, is that we should start looking potentially at annexing in those properties maybe sooner rather than later as a possibility for opening up housing opportunities. And what's also nice is that it appears there could be some serendipity with our legislators as they are also looking at these properties and thinking about them potentially a little bit differently as they're starting to unpack some of our Growth Management Act. And the fact that there's kind of a line between the city limits and the urban growth area, it's a very distinct line in development patterns. And are there opportunities to create something that can kind of mesh those worlds together a little bit more better, reflective, and not to be so distinctly different. And so there could be some recommendations from this group to advance those possibilities. And we're also just running out of large parcels, which we heard from one developer may be what we need to have these 12 units. They need to be part maybe of a larger development. So those things we're waiting to wash out. But I just wanted to inform you of the UGA conversation. Yes, Mayor.
And I've had a couple conversations with Commissioner Christine Rolfes individually, not with the county commission as a whole, on the question of beginning to explore UGA swaps as an alternative or supplement to what Heather just described. That's been lurking in the background. There's not been any moves on it, but I think there'll be an openness to it. If we're going to meet any of our housing goals, what we've determined out, we have very little buildable lands available that are not encumbered.
That's right.
And we need to be taking steps, workforce or any spectrum of housing at all.
Thank you, Mayor. And to piggyback on that, we are experiencing, we have lands, we have capacity for our targets, but as the mayor said, they are constrained properties and they're just more expensive and more difficult to construct. So where does this leave us? Which is, I'm going to go to the end of what we hope to provide at the commencement of this group. And we're projected to meet for 6 months up until December. And once we complete our work, what we hope to provide to this council and to the legislators is a workforce homeownership opportunity report, as well as a legislative report. And we will be providing for our community and council to consider just what this pilot project would take to come into reality, and prepare for you a roadmap of like potential regulations that may need to be modified, incentive programs that the city or employers or the state could offer. And at the end of this, if there's an appetite from the council, we could be drafting a request for proposal to see if there is anyone in pursuing this development. So For example, if we know we need 20,000 square feet of property for this design concept and the council wants to offer any type of incentives, some flexibility in fee waivers or deferral programs, we could put that in a request for proposal and ask people to bring a property forward that they wanted to build this type of development upon, and know that these kind of waivers, exemptions, fast tracks, whatever it is that we feel comfortable committing to is available to them. So that could be a deliverable that comes out of this work group with council support. And then because we're fortunate enough to have Greg Nance on our committee and we have some insight into where our legislator is right now, and knowing that they haven't focused so much on this type of home ownership concept for this income group, we're hoping that we can ask for some help from them and give them a roadmap of areas that they could pursue so that it would make it easy for us to get this type of development in our communities, not just limited to Poulsbo, but statewide. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen sharing and just opening up if you have any questions for myself, Rob, or the mayor, or any comments on the work to date.
First off, great work, and thank you to our council members who are involved and putting the time and effort into it. It shows. These are kind of preliminary questions because I know we're in a
Sure.
preliminary place, so there's no pressure for an answer, but just something to consider as you're moving forward. And these might be things you've already considered. One, will there be policies around ownership and generational wealth? Essentially, Poulsbo Place started as affordable starter homes and now selling over what is considered affordable. In other words, not allowing is there policies like not allowing the seller to go to someone who's earning X over percent of AMI, or other policies related to constraining the way that people sell and own those homes and how they are transferred further down the line. Two, policies around wealth versus income. This is something I always harp on. An example is many retired people have low wealth and fixed incomes, but some may have no income and tons of wealth, might qualify, hopefully don't qualify for these programs just so they can have a fourth house that they then turn into a rental or something. I want to avoid that. Or the example I always love using is Jeff Bezos has zero income. Employee membership list. Just want to make sure that there's no unfair access to housing subsidized by government, and just that consideration overall.
Thank you so much for those thoughtful comments. I appreciate it. And those will be elevated to the group. And hopefully they can feed into the work that you're wanting to do as well. Yes. Thank you.
Heather, I just wanted to say thanks, first of all, for the work. I looked through all the materials you attached to the memo, and I was wondering if you could just quickly explain the capacity analysis map, what it tells us overall, and also what the blue and orange squares on the map mean. I don't know what the pipeline means, and I'm not sure what partially utilized means concretely. So if you could explain.
Absolutely. So I am going to channel my inner Nicole for that. So those maps were created for our buildable lands analysis, so that we could determine if we had enough land availability for our housing targets that we receive from the state. And what those colors show you, I don't have the map open in front of me, but pipeline projects mean that they've come in for like a pre-application. Thank you so much. Pipeline projects means they've come in for a pre-application or land use approval, but they actually haven't broken ground yet, but we know that they are anticipated. So we've counted those numbers. When we look at our targets, we can show while they aren't counted in our existing inventory, we know that we're going to have another 500 homes during our 20-year planning horizon.
Yeah, Heather, having taken a peek at that, would it be fair to say that that's conceptual on how your department works? Because just for my colleagues, if you look in the fine print, it's from 2021. And so quite a few of the things that say in pipeline, if you went to those parcels in pipeline, you'd see people living in them. So like Blue Heron is in the pipeline, Liberty Ridge is in the pipeline. All of them are pretty much built out. But I guess I'd suggest it's a concept of how to do that.
Thank you so much for reminding us where we are in terms of the timing of that map. So that was part of our comprehensive plan. We're required to show that the capacity, this is actually standardized across the county and all the cities. But what you'll see in the underutilized, I want to explain that, which I think is the light blue, and I think it's important to note. Underutilized, maybe, for example, a property that has one single family home, but the zoning could support something obviously greater than that. And so we have to indicate those that are completely undeveloped, with no pipeline project. We indicate those that are underdeveloped that could be ripe for redevelopment. But what's interesting about that one is there's a formula where we look at the assessed value of the land and the development compared to the full development potential. So for example, if they're really close to their full, those numbers are pretty equivalent in their full potential and existing potential, we wouldn't categorize it necessarily as underdeveloped. There has to be a tipping point where we count it towards our inventory. So, and then of course, the pipeline ones are the ones where we demonstrate that we will reach our targets through those developments, because there's always a gap between when we do this analysis and when we finalize our comprehensive plan.
One of the things that I just want to caution, we've been staring at city-owned pieces of property that are vacant or mostly vacant. The reality is those city-owned pieces of property were given to us or acquired by us because they really weren't buildable back in the day, whether the day was a week ago or 50 years ago. And so we're doing our due diligence in that standpoint. But for us to go build on those, we incur some pretty high site development costs before you can even lift a stick of lumber. So I personally, and this isn't from the commission yet, I think we need to take a hard look at what are some of the available lots, parcels that are in private ownership, and potentially pursue those, because we're going to show that if we pick a piece of property that's too hard to develop, we're going to show you can't do it. And so at the end of the day, we're going to end up selling these things. Whether it be a city-backed development or it be a private partnership, we're not going to own the dirt. Or at least I don't think the concept here is that this is going to be government dirt with the idea is to try to sell it. So first focus was on what do we have that's easy for us to make decisions on. The second standpoint would be, all right, what else is out there? Britt looks, okay. Just sharing that as something where
That was a question I had, is whether the committee would be considering what else might be out there that the city doesn't own.
Yeah, and I think, when you look at, it's not on this one, but there's one of the maps that shows some of the things that are inside the UGA that are just outside the boundary. There are some pieces of dirt that are flatter that could be developable. There's also ones that we were chatting earlier, is like, if we are going to do 6 or 8 or maybe up to 12, how do you leverage that effort with another development? Somebody's putting the road in, somebody's putting the sewer in, and so we're not paying 100%. We're paying shared costs on starting the development. And so some of those kind of conversations is going to be the second and third order. I just want to caution that this isn't going to be tied up neatly in a bow in 90 days, or else it would have been done before. But it is a very interesting discussion in the meeting, because we have people that care about our community, that have been trying to build in our community or have built in our community. And so they know the ins and outs of what we're trying to do. And they're committed to, I don't sense anybody's there trying to figure out how to make their own money. They're trying to figure out, hey, is there a different way to do this? And is there a different way we could think about government rules or approach or GMA that helps nudge it one way or the other? You've been listening, Michael, so I hear you. So I just share that with folks.
I'm getting a little bit into the weeds here, but as options and opportunities are explored, and if I'm understanding correctly, there might be like some land that can be built on, but there might be some restrictions as to maybe some funding or how it's utilized. I do have a question here. In looking at incentives and opportunities, is the Washington State Housing Finance Commission being looked at as well as some funding opportunities or pathways that might align with what Poulsbo is trying to do? I'm going to do a shameless plug here. Okay, there will be a program offered in November at the library for home buyers down payment assistance course, in which you complete 5-hour courses. It's going to be 2 sessions at 2.5 hours, and you get a certificate from the Washington Housing Finance Commission that gives you access to home buyers down payment assistance. We're libraries, we can't provide housing. What we can try to do is provide some information and moments that will help to, we have shared goals. The city, the library, we have shared goals. And this is focusing on households with up to 250K. So, and this course is being offered through WHFC. And so I'm assuming that maybe this is way down the road in the weeds, that your plan is kicked off and it's coming to fruition, and this resource is looked at, and hopefully there won't be any barriers or obstacles. So more a question, a bit of a statement combination there.
Councilmember Crowe, that is exactly what this group is being tasked with. And so thank you. Is to find those opportunities, because we all have limited scopes of what's available to us. So this is exactly what I think that group is going to be identifying. So I've added it to the list for that group to dive into and learn a little bit more. Thank you. Yeah, very timely.
Yeah. So Doug, your policy points earlier, yeah, I think that's some of the stuff that we don't want to get into this effort just to have them end up being sold off and get outside the scope. So I think those are important points to make that we want to consider early on. But the last one I want to be careful on. You said about government subsidized. I forget exactly how you phrased it. Because I could see if we're not careful with that, we could eliminate a huge percentage of our military population if we phrase it wrong. And virtually everyone assigned here in the military fits within this income range. So we don't want, and yes, some come here to rent and they're only here for a tour and leave, but others come here and stay, and we don't want them to not be able to have opportunity. Like I said, if I didn't buy my house when I did, I couldn't buy it now. So, or it would seriously curtail the way I live. I'll put it that way. So we just want to be careful when we get into government that however we phrase it, however we write it, the military is not exempted from this, so to speak, because this courtyard, this is exactly the kind of community, a 12 house, families are deployed. Like the military does this already. It's not official. It's just communities come together, deployed families come together, help each other out while the spouse is out. Yeah, the spouse is gone, and they take care of each other and all. So this kind of community self-forms within the military community. So I just want to make sure we don't do that. And then just of the three you showed, I'm a little worried that we're looking at Parks and Rec building and Public Works, because we have lots of other talks about those. So I would be a little slower moving towards those, just because of other conversations we've had about uses of those properties. But I mean, they're probably some of the only flat buildable stuff we own, but that's also why we looked at them for other things. So just a little cautious on those two.
Heather, help me to share with my colleagues. When I engaged with Commissioner Rolfus in the other discussion, she initiated showing me a parcel just on the other side of the UGA that the county owns, that previously Mayor Erickson and her had spoken over. Just off the top of your head, what can you share with us about that one county parcel that the county was conceivably calling our attention to?
I believe we're talking about this property here. That's correct. I'm going to actually City Administrator, do you have any more insight on this property outside of the fact that it could be eligible for the swap, which I can explain that process a little bit more, but
So I don't think it really would be a candidate for a swap because it's already within the urban growth area. So unless you wanted to try to exclude it, you wouldn't be swapping it. That particular parcel is under ownership of the road fund for the county. So it basically means that in order for that to be activated for housing, it would have to be sold and the road fund would have to be made whole at a fair market value. I can't remember off the top of my head the amount of acreage that is there. But given that it's a similar size to the parcel to the west of it, it has the opportunity to do a fair amount, but there is a wellhead, I believe,
Yeah,
on the
and
property as well.
I started that a year or three ago, and it's already been subdivided. It's been, rephrase it's been platted very similar to the property immediately to the west. It's already been developed. So I think that's an example of one that I think as we start to look at where could we build, because that's, as you know, flat. It's got good access. There's utilities in the area. Where in comparison, trying to build on Parks and Rec, we might be able to get something there, but it's not, we can't replicate that. It's not it'd be a one and done. And it's,
and just if you weren't observing, because I didn't do a great job of identifying it, this is where my cursor is outlining. These are the properties that are potentially at some point could be available to us. And then this is the one to the west that's developed. So you can see the development pattern and what could be possible on these properties. And I will say, in response to Councilmember Eckert's comment about the properties that have been identified could be used for other uses, absolutely. We just thought it would be worth bringing it into the conversation. But what did come out of it, as Councilmember Eckert was indicating, is that we do have opportunity for more kind of one-off homes like we've done at Reb Park. So that was a good outcome of that exercise. If that's something that the council wants to partner, again, we have the funding for Habitat for Humanity. We want to build one ADU. Of the 14 properties that the city owns, most of them have the potential for just one smaller unit if that opportunity comes to us again, and we want to provide either employee housing for a city employee or a partnership with the schools. I mean, there's all kinds of opportunity there, but for the exercise of this group, they're only focusing on the ones that could have the potential for the 12. And thank you, Council. Are there any other questions, comments? And I'm committed to coming back every 2 months so that you're not surprised at the end of this with the report. And I will share with this group. Rob and I will make sure they've heard some of the comments that we've heard this evening.
So we meet again this coming Tuesday, July 7. We have been meeting in person, third floor conference room. We met down here, but the group liked the smaller quarters for more intimacy and quicker exchange. There's the potential of doing it by Zoom, but right now it's in person. And any of you, short of a quorum, Michael, as he mentioned, has been auditing on his own. Doug Newell is an actually seated member, but there'd be room for any of you to come and go as you see fit to observe. It is under the city umbrella. This council is responsible.
But my understanding is the next one is just for the working groups. It's not a full meeting of the group. Oh, it's both.
It will be a full meeting in the beginning. We'll be sharing the vision of accomplishing the 12 unit in the courtyard complex. And then we will have the working groups divide. And those that aren't in either the first or second group, they can sit in and observe whichever group they feel they have the most interest or they can contribute the most to.
That's at 3 p.m.
That's correct.
I might call on Rob just impromptu for a moment. He and I met today regarding the agenda, and I love the focus he's bringing to it now to put some guardrails and focus for outcomes instead of just interaction and concept. Just a sample of the thought you have for the agenda this coming meeting, Rob.
Well, I think Heather already touched on it. It's really sort of, we have been talking brainstorming kind of the theoretical, the first few, but now we're going to really focus and hone the conversation and or the question before the commission around the 12-unit courtyard concept, and then looking at identifying sort of what the barriers are there. So that's the focus. And thus far, I've heard from most of the members who are interested in being in person. So we will be doing breakout rooms between the third and second floor.
As was touched on at the beginning and in my thought, I'm perfectly willing to fold up the tent at the end of this exercise and say it can't be done at this place, at this time, under these market conditions, whether that's interest rates, buildable lands, you name it. But not to ask the question, not to delve deep for the sake of our young families and workforce out of these couple of generations now that are cut out of what I call the American dream. We, our parents, our grandparents, much of our middle class was built on home ownership. And we have a couple generations now effectively frozen out in this town and in this country. And it's just wrong. And so the hard questions need to be asked, and the outcome will be what the outcome is, but we should not be afraid of asking those hard questions. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, City Council, for your support. Moving on in the agenda, we are at that point of questions and concerns of the council, also future agenda items. Michael, do you want, since Doug Newell got here late, do you want to share your opening remark specific to future agenda items with the council?
I mentioned that in light of conversations with the outgoing owners of Western Red and other business owners downtown and around the city, that it might be time to revisit the threshold on our B&O tax and look at raising that, because margins are tight and have been tight for a while. And while I agree with Doug Tabor's presentation about where the blame should be, 70%. The reality is I still think we're potentially the most responsible government around right now. And so maybe we can do something to help out our businesses. And so I asked the mayor to bring that forward potentially to a workshop to discuss the B&O tax.
Just a quick, I know Doug has some thoughts on this too. Originally we were at 20,000, and I, in the finance working group, suggested we needed to be at 250. There's a time and a place for the revenue from our small businesses to contribute to our community. But much like growing a garden, you don't pull up your vegetables just as they're laying root, right? You wait for them to mature some. So there's also a philosophy here. We ended up at 125, which I accepted as one of 7, just as a city council member, because there was the thought, if we delayed on paid parking, and the council was very concerned about the cost of parking enforcement, then we had this increment that wasn't specifically allocated, what I called a windfall, just forgive the term. That time has passed and we're moving on to paid parking. I much prefer a $250,000 threshold. I've spoken to that a year and a half ago and a year ago as a council person. Doug?
Yeah, I certainly welcome the conversation. I think we should look at it, maybe tee it up as maybe a 2-step. One, that specific issue. But we also, and I can't quote chapter and verse, but we do have in our comprehensive plan a chapter on economic development, and a part of that gets into how do we support business development in our local businesses, and taking a step back and looking at where are they at today? What have we done in the behind us? What can we do in the future to help enable that part of our comp plan? I think would be warranted. We have a bunch of things, goals, etc., that say, hey, are we meeting what we said we would do, and is it effective enough to get these businesses up and off the ground?
Yeah, when you brought it up before, and so it's like I said, it's worth the conversation. The one thing I liked about the last time we discussed it that I would like to see again, if and when we do, is Deb brought numbers on if we moved it up to this point, this is approximately how many businesses would be affected, and this is approximately what difference in revenue that would equate to. So I think that would be useful to know, and not just 125 to 250, maybe some increment in the middle, just like what are we looking at from that decision in hard numbers, or as hard a number as we can get, because it's predictive. But what does it really mean if we do it? So yeah, let's have the conversation.
Any other discussion, Doug?
Sure. And thank you, my colleagues, for allowing us to have the flexibility in our participation here to be able to do it either in person or take some time off when we do. I had the fortunate ability to go see my daughter in Europe over the last couple of weeks. On the way back home, we stopped in Iceland. During that time, many of us are watching the World Cup. My daughter's currently in Valencia, Spain, playing on a team a 7v7 soccer team. She's the keeper in a global competition of folks that have some challenges in life. In any event, she's in a 9-day competition. That being said, some of us can't not watch our devices, Britt. So I'm guilty too.
So don't. Some of us are recording the game, but I can.
You can leave the room right now, Mayor, because I have to look at the people behind you and understand we have a conundrum on Monday at 5:00. We have a problem because these two are in the first half and second half of something that you don't know about, Mayor.
Something I deliberately didn't want to know.
Oh.
Wow. They're in Seattle.
In Seattle.
But you don't know about this yet. And it's not when they're.
Your mayor can't know everything.
Concentrate on what they're saying, Leighton and Dan.
So,
Promise.
Rob, seriously, is there any entertaining the councilman's concerns?
You can have it on a TV,
Yeah.
no sound in this.
We can do that. And if we suddenly start cheering, is that going to be thought on it?
Can we go into like a 2-hour executive session?
We get 15-minute breaks, right? 30 minutes, then 15. Sorry, guys. I know you're in the background.
That.
I had a.
Okay, we're going to move on future agenda items. Britt and then Doug Tabor.
I do have a future agenda item I'd like to bring up. I've brought this up a few times over the years, maybe sort of lightly or in passing, not in a really serious way, but there's getting to be maybe some traction, some interest in the potential of a formation for an entertainment district in downtown. So folks involved in marketing the historic downtown are constantly trying to come up with creative event ideas. And one of those, which I think has been done in other places like Pike Place in Seattle, is this concept of a sip and stroll. And I think there's maybe other ways to go about it, but in the long term, a key component would be an entertainment district, which allows for, yes, open containers for alcohol consumption outside of establishments. Now that is something that we as a jurisdiction can do, and it doesn't have to be a citywide thing, but there's obviously a lot of research that has to go into this. But I've been asked to kind of bring it seriously.
Yeah, it was just a few years ago, Tammy Matson was heavily involved in the downtown, and we called it nightlife economy.
Yeah.
And this was an aspect of that. We didn't drill just down on this. I think it's appropriate within what Doug cited, the comprehensive plan, economic development, the investment in the downtown. All things should be on the table.
Yeah.
They're
So-
certainly open for discussion.
Yeah, so is there concurrence in, I mean, because at some point, we're going to need staff's help with understanding, you know, zoning
And I think,
laws.
I mean, we've talked about it before. What I'd like to see is us just have that vision of downtown conversation. And if I brought up creative district, but just because that's the one I knew about, entertainment district, maybe both. I don't know what the right answer is, but I just want to have a conversation of and figure out a plan for downtown that we can put the energy behind, define, set forth, have it going, take some pressure off the volunteers of HDPA, and then move on to other parts of the city. I mean, that is really what's behind me driving this, because I want to spend time on Viking Avenue and 305 and some of these other parts of the city that we don't talk about nearly enough. So yeah, so I mean, and I was going to bring up, not as a concern, but as a highlight, that our next meeting has the Front Street traffic conversation as an item. And please, let's encourage people to come and participate with comments, because we want public to be part of that conversation.
So
What do
we-
they want Front Street to be?
We've elevated to the capital improvement plan, the transportation improvement plan, the positioning now of the water sewer work that must be done on Front Street, and making it, of course, I'm not sharing anything you're not highly aware of, part of a larger concept. If, say, it were to go to one lane slowed down with re-engineered sidewalks and sidewalk level crosswalks, we've effectively created a more European style pedestrian plaza. At that point, the safety features to accommodate any number of activities improve mightily. The extent to which we can elevate that conversation, again, Rob with Diane and Josh and everyone, sooner rather than later, plugs into any number of items the council has an interest in.
I support Britt's workshop proposal.
Thanks.
Doug Tabor.
This is also just to kind of fill in and make official. Doug, I had a speech, and it was essentially proposing a workshop item on affordability, both locally and requesting our federal representatives do more for affordability, since they receive 70% of the taxes. I think that's highly relevant to our economic development, but also just looking locally at affordability, and then
No, I
other
fully
impacts.
concur. One of the things I've been chewing with, and I haven't brought it forward, is the concept of, I don't know if any of you are econ geeks, but the Economist magazine, been reading since the 80s. There's such this thing as the Big Mac Index. It's a way to a common item that's found all over the world, and you can take a look at it from a cost standpoint. But a Big Mac in Poulsbo is $6.99. A Big Mac in Tacoma is $5.79. In Bellingham, it's $6.59. You go out to Leavenworth, it's $5.79. We are a high cost location within it. If you go to Times Square in New York City, they're $6.99. So from the standpoint of where we're at, and that you can go into Beverly Hills, they're below $6. So what is it that's driving that? I think it's warranted for us to take a look at it because of the incremental pieces. I don't think it's just the B&O tax. If it's a conscious decision and we think it's best for our community, great. But there are the unintended consequences, which is that we are part of I haven't had a chance to read it, but thank you for bringing it up, because I think it is a warranted piece for us to have a conversation about, is how do we enable our community to be successful and affordable? Agree.
Any comment from staff overall? No. Any other future agenda items? If not, we're going to move on to continued public comment, and we're preparing to go into executive session after a last round of mayor and council member comments. And the motion that will enable that will include language to the effect that we will adjourn from executive session. So with that said, calling for any public comment, 3 minutes, state your place of residence, please come forward. Let's hear from you.
I think we've agreed to speak on Monday.
Oh. Well, in light of Mr. Newell's remarks, that's not very welcome.
I'll be brief.
So again, in all seriousness, calling for public comment. And not seeing any, we're going to move on. Executive session. This is an executive session regarding performance of a public employee. Revised Code, State of Washington, 42.30.1101, subsection G. This is to take 15 minutes. I note right now that it is approaching 7:40. We will be having automatic adjournment at 8 o'clock. I need a motion and a second to enable that.
Mr. Mayor, I think we can adjourn by 7:55.
Oh, good. 7:55.
I
Better
move
yet.
to adjourn out of executive session by 7:55.
No late.
Second.
Second, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're moving into executive session.